Number 10. ALMAZ IBRAEV. You've heard of Bob the Builder, but what about ALMAZ IBRAEV the Builder? The 41-year-old man has been accused of murdering a hairstylist in Russia. 27-year-old Yuliana was discovered dead inside her St. Petersburg apartment on November 23, 2022. Law enforcement isn't sure exactly why ALMAZ wanted to kill Yuliana, but they suspect he was worried the young woman wasn't going to pay him for the work he'd done since she was unhappy with the quality. This has yet to be confirmed though. He was hired to help refurbish her new apartment and was seen on surveillance footage at the site the day Yuliana was killed. Yuliana had gone to visit the property to see the progress ALMAZ had made so far. It's believed the killer used a blunt object to beat the victim senseless before choking her. Yuliana was wrapped up with plastic and stashed in a bag with some construction debris. Investigators also noticed a distinct mark near her neck. It looked like some kind of wire was used to create it, perhaps when ALMAZ choked her. As soon as her remains were found, an extensive search for the murderer began. ALMAZ was listed on a most wanted list for the public to keep their eyes out for him. Luckily, 4 days after Yuliana's death, he was located near a hostel in the city. The case is ongoing, so we'll have to wait for a court verdict. Number 9. Lee McNutt. If you've ever rented a house or lived in an apartment, then you've probably had a maintenance worker come by to fix something. They often have keys to your home in order to come in when necessary, but they aren't usually required to let you know when they're stopping by. In March 2022, a 47-year-old woman from Spokane, Washington woke up in her apartment one morning to see a man lying next to her. She recognized the intruder as a maintenance man for her apartment. He told her once she was awake that he was there to have sex with her. He'd broken into the unit around midnight the night before and laid in bed with her. He threatened to kill the woman if she didn't listen to him. After being assaulted for hours, she finally managed to distract her attacker by telling him he should try some of her clothes on. This was apparently something the man wanted to do. While he put the clothing on, she called the police. Authorities came to her apartment and arrested 39-year-old Lee R. McNutt. They found him completely naked in the woman's closet. The maintenance worker was taken to the city's jail with a slew of charges, including rape, burglary, assault, threats to kill, and more. Number 8. David BONOLA. In 2022, a Queens handyman named David BONOLA killed 51-year-old Orsalya Gao. The two had allegedly been seeing each other for a little over 2 years. Orsalya's remains were discovered on a street corner stuffed inside a hockey bag that belonged to her son. On top of their so-called intimate relationship, David did some work for the victim at her house. Investigators determined that the two had been at odds and their fling was coming to a close, but they aren't sure who officially ended it. Before her death, Orsalya went to a show in Manhattan, where she got home late that night, and David was waiting for her inside. He knew about the woman's hidden house key that she kept in the outside barbecue. After confronting her, David and Orsalya argued until he snapped. He went crazy, stabbing her with a knife all over her body 58 times. Her body showed signs that she put up quite the fight, but it wasn't enough. Security footage caught David moving the bag with Orsalya's remains down the street. Once he dumped it, the killer ran away, taking off his bloody clothing as he went. Luckily, the victim's husband was out of town at the time of the murder. Another one of her children was home, but was not hurt. If found guilty of this crime, David could go to prison for the rest of his life. Number 7. SHAUN RUNYON. In October 2021, a Florida electrician went on a murder spree. 39-year-old SHAUN RUNYON brutally stabbed and killed 3 people. The victims were co-workers and temporary roommates of the deranged man. Another person was injured in the attack, but luckily survived. Apparently, Runyon got into a heated argument with his boss a few days before the incident. It's been reported that SHAUN punched the supervisor and quickly left work. The next day, he went to his house and went crazy. His co-workers were allowing him to stay with them for a short period of time, but he completely betrayed their kindness. With both a knife and a baseball bat, he beat 3 of them to death. Thankfully, a witness, his wife, and their young daughter got away without sustaining any injuries. The reason behind the initial fight between SHAUN and his boss is unknown, but it's clear that it played a major role in the man's mental break. Police arrested Runyon after he randomly knocked on the door of a couple in a nearby town. They were shocked to see him covered in blood. He told them that he was a victim of rape, but they knew something was wrong and dialed 911. On top of murder, SHAUN has also been charged with strangulation, child endangerment, terroristic threat, and more. What would you do if a coworker came at you with a baseball bat? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe if you like the video so far. Number 6. Rotherie Foster. After already serving time in prison for murder, 37-year-old Rotherie Durrell Foster should have known how serious the crime was. Unfortunately for Jose Velasquez, Rotherie needed a reminder of what the inside of a jail cell looked like. On July 27, 2022, Jose, a plumber from Camarillo, California, went missing. Police and community members searched for the man for months until his remains were found in October of that year. During the hunt, Rotherie had already been arrested. He'd tried using the victim's banking cards and was quickly taken into custody. Without the body, though, they couldn't charge him with murder. Once Jose's remains were discovered, that changed. His body had several gunshot wounds, and it was obvious this was a violent death. The suspect had previously served 21 years for an unrelated murder and assault in Sacramento. Only a few years after freedom, he turned back to his old ways. Rotherie knew the victim because they'd started a plumbing business together. It's unclear what his motive for killing Jose was, but it may have been tied to their work. If found guilty of taking a person's life again, Rotherie will no doubt spend the rest of his life behind bars. Number 5. Hidden cameras. Have you ever wondered if someone was watching you? Well, residents of the Steeplechase apartment complex in Ohio know for a fact someone was. In 2016, several hidden cameras were found inside the units of female renters. They were placed inside the air vents of bathrooms. An investigation revealed that 65-year-old maintenance worker Gerald Rowe was responsible. 5 different women were targeted by the creep. They were all between the ages of 20 and 30. When asked about the incident, all of the victims were rightfully deeply disturbed and shaken up. Who knows how long Gerald had been watching them? And who knows what he was doing with the footage? The man was charged with 5 counts of both voyeurism and burglary. It's unclear what sentence he received, but he definitely deserves to be watched carefully for the rest of his life while rotting behind bars. Number 4. CESAR Montelongo. A worker was tragically killed during a maintenance check at an apartment complex in Texas. 53-year-old CESAR Montelongo was checking some pipes when someone who lived in the building saw him. The resident made the wild assumption that CESAR was a burglar and trying to break in. Without asking any questions, the person just shot the maintenance worker dead. Law enforcement arrived at about 6 p.m. that night to investigate. They found CESAR's body lying on the shooter's balcony. Medical responders attempted to save him by rushing the man to the hospital, but it was too late. The accident happened on Christmas Eve in 2022, and CESAR was making sure the pipes weren't frozen after a few had busted open earlier in the day. He had to get on the resident's balcony in order to make the checks, which is why the person assumed he was trying to rob them. The shooter was fully cooperative with investigators, and no arrests were made. It seems this was just a terrible misunderstanding gone wrong. The saddest part about this situation is that it happened during the holidays. Christmas would have been CESAR's 29th wedding anniversary with his beloved wife. Together, they had 5 sons who they loved dearly. The Montelongo family will miss CESAR with all their heart. Number 3. Picasso. Picasso is highly regarded as one of the most famous artists in history. The 20th century painter is well known for revolutionizing surrealist art with cubism and other distinct styles. One of his famous pieces is called Woman's Head. It features part of a woman's face built in a triangular form with the other half mirroring a rectangle. Let's just say it's a unique style for acquired tastes. The symbolism behind the work of art is what makes it so meaningful, though. It was dedicated to the people of Greece after World War II and the struggle against Nazi Germany. In 2012, the piece was being featured in Athens at the National Gallery when it was stolen by a construction worker. The 49-year-old man also took another painting by Piet Mondrian called Stammer Mill with Summer House. The 2 works of art were finally recovered in 2021. They were found protected by plastic in an empty riverbed outside the city. The thief was arrested and questioned, but not many details of the suspect were released. He likely would have had a difficult time selling the Picasso piece since it was so high profile. If anyone did buy and feature it, authorities would immediately know. It was revealed that the construction worker was the sole person involved in the crime, but it isn't known how police found him or the paintings. Even with cloudy details, we're at least happy such an important piece of artistic history has been safely recovered. Number 2. Electrician to murderer. In February 2023, an electrician from Linden, New Jersey completely lost it. The father of 2 children allegedly shot both his wife and their kids before taking his own life. The police have not revealed the identities of those involved yet. Authorities did say that one of the man's children survived the initial attack. He witnessed firsthand the deaths of his sister and mother. When first responders got to the scene, they immediately did what they could to try and save the boy. Sadly, after being transported to the University Hospital in the nearby town of Newark, the child passed away. The family's neighbors were completely blown away by the tragic crime. A few said they remembered helping the young couple move in over a decade ago in 2007. 56-year-old Angel Montanez, who was acquainted with them, said they seemed completely normal. He and the father both worked as electricians, so they would often chat about their jobs and lives. Sometimes they'd even take turns driving their kids to school. Angel's wife was also shocked. The deceased wife of the killer had just done her hair a week before the murders and nothing seemed off. While many neighbors spoke fondly of the family, one unnamed woman said the father shot his gun in the backyard sometimes. If this was true, it's definitely odd behavior, especially in such a close community. As of right now, police are under the impression that this crime happened after a severe mental break. It just goes to show that you never know what's going on in someone's mind, even if they seem fine on the outside. Number 1. Brandon Joseph Bonds. In February 2022, a plumber from Spring Branch, Texas received a 25-year prison sentence for sexually assaulting a child. 26-year-old Brandon Joseph Bonds was an apprentice back in 2018 when the crime took place. He and his boss were at a client's house working at the time. They were mainly working in the garage, but the owner of the home asked Brandon's supervisor to look at something upstairs. While doing so, the suspect was accidentally locked outside. A 4-year-old girl was watching TV in the home's living room, so Brandon got her attention. With some persuasion, he got the child to turn the lock so he could come in. After she did so, he began inappropriately touching the 4-year-old. When he finished his despicable act, he went upstairs with his boss and the child's father. As soon as the plumbers left the home, the girl told her parents what Brandon did. After the child was taken to the hospital and examined, Brandon's DNA was collected. He was arrested not long after. This situation is every parent's worst nightmare, and it's absolutely disgusting what this pedophile did. He deserves everything that comes to him once other prisoners find out his crime. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you found hidden cameras in your apartment? Let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed today's video. We'll see you next time on Bad Badger. Bye.